On behalf of State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's EL Best Practices webinar. I'm going to go ahead and get things moving as quick as possible. I'd like to ask everyone to go ahead and keep your mics muted, just to keep things nice and quiet for our presenters. If you have any questions, if you can go ahead and just submit in the chat box. We will, I want to make sure that we get through all the presenters first, and then we can do a Q&A session afterwards. Now this webinar is scheduled from 2 to 3 o'clock. It's going to take probably the vast majority of that time to get through, let our 4 presenters today talk about what the great things they have going on in their district. And then they've all committed to, kind of staying around after the webinar is over to answer any potential questions that you might have about their practices and procedures in their district. And Gary's assured me that we can go over our time as long as we need to, to kind of just flesh out questions and answers, and so we would, answer everything you need to know. There's 2 things that I want to just go ahead and mention really quick before we start. The first off is that there's about 50 districts in the state that will receive a notification from federal programs. And Tom Kirk will be on a little bit later, and he might be able to address this in our Q&A session if you have any questions about it. But essentially what's going on is that about 50 districts in the state are going to receive an email that's asking them to break down the grade level of the LIEPs that they have in practice in their district. So it's basically saying from the Title III performance, or from the EL performance report, if you're reporting 35 students in content class with ESL support, it's going to ask you to break those students out K through 12. How many of those 35 are in each grade? Again, this is only going to affect about 50 districts in the state, but just FYI, this could be coming. And if you do get that email, we would very much appreciate a rapid turnaround on that, because it has to do with EdFact's data submission, and we want to make sure that we get the federal government the information that they're requesting. The second point that I want to bring up is that we did a little modification to the EL Listserv notification list. So we had different lists, and we went ahead and consolidated and removed duplicates. So if you did not receive, most people I think that are in this right now did receive the notification, because that new list that we created is what this webinar notification came out on. So if you're in this webinar, you probably got that. But just FYI, if you have someone in your district that isn't getting the notifications anymore, they need to go back in through the public list newsletter sign up on the SDE homepage and just re-add their name to the list to make sure they're getting new notifications. So just FYI on that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to pass off to our first presenter. Miss Leslie Witchert from Enid Public Schools has some great things going on with their EL program, and I'm going to let her go ahead and tell you what's going on. Leslie, it's all you.
Thank you. And I will say, yes, the emails have come out, because I received one just a little bit ago from Mr. Kirk. So thank you for that. So basically, I was asked to kind of visit with you guys to tell you a little bit what we have been doing in Enid with this distance learning craziness that's been going on. I will say a disclaimer that a lot of this stuff that we're doing, as my boss says, we're building the plane as we fly it. So there's a lot of things that we are trying. I'm not going to say we haven't been able to see if it's 100% successful yet, but so far so good. So we're moving forward with what we're doing. So just basically kind of how we got started. When we started going, and first I'm going to go back, and mainly what I'm talking about is mainly pre-K through 5th grade right now. Our secondary teachers, our ELD teachers, are able to connect with them a little bit easier than our elementary tutors were. So that's kind of where we focused some of what I'm doing so far. So what Enid basically started doing is we made learning menus. Our curriculum department, which consists of about 7 instructional coaches within the district, we decided that which 3 essential elements or 3 essential standards would be critical or be beneficial for our pre-K through 5th grade students in ELA and math. So once we determined what those standards were, we basically created learning menus. And the standards that we chose are basically the standards that that would sustain somewhat their learning. No new learning was going to be done by parents. We just wanted to base on what they have already done up to this point. So we started creating learning menus, or our instructional coaches and curriculum team kind of started creating learning menus. Luckily, we had a great turnaround. We were able to get about 9 to, depending on the grade level, about 9 to 11 pages per grade level that had activities in reading and math. And these activities were, the focus was no paperwork. So just a few activities that, just to kind of give you some examples. And basically a lot of these, luckily, were all covered. A lot of them are able to cover the 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So just for example, a writing one is, we asked, Earth Day was this 22nd, so we asked a kindergartner or first grade to write a story pretending to be a tree or a plant. The second one was candy math. You know, they divided up candy into categories and they had to explain which one was more and which one was less. A listening is, we asked them to read a book and retell the story to a parent or a sibling. Another one is to write a pretend letter to a friend. So a lot of the activities that we tried to get them involved in was not actually worksheets. It was actually get up, get outside, do something in the house that parents don't feel best necessarily threatened doing with their kids. With those learning menus in Enid, we have a large population of Spanish, but we also have a large population of Marshallese. And if any of you are familiar with Marshallese, Marshallese is not an easy translation to find within companies. I know a lot of companies have lots of languages out there and they say, oh, we have 50 plus languages available to translate. Well, Marshallese, unfortunately, is not one of them. So luckily we have staff. We're able to hire some Marshallese staff this year. So we are actually able to have those learning menus available in Spanish and in Marshallese. So that was kind of our focus of trying to get those learning menus to our parents that they can easily understand in their native language. So those are the learning menus was probably the biggest part that we did in Enid. That's available in Spanish and translation, or Spanish and Marshallese. I've also asked, I've met with my title teachers that I've asked them to, of course, they're also reaching out to their kiddos through their principals. I've asked them to do stuff, but I've also asked them to create some activities for parents that we're also translating into Spanish and Marshallese. And we are encouraging so many minutes of reading to their parent or to kids each day. So that's great that we can encourage our parents to read or our kids to read, but we need to make sure the parents know what type of questions to ask, maybe before they read, during they read, after they read. So I've asked some of my title teachers to put resources together like that. That will be available. That's still in the works. So I would show you, but that's still being created. But those will also be available in Spanish and Marshallese. So if they're asking them to read a story, then they can ask questions as they read. The final project that, again, as I'm building as I fly, is we have a Marshallese, well, it's an EL leadership class at the high school, which consists of Marshallese students and Spanish students. They help mainly the newcomers within the high school. I have asked them to, and like I said, we're still working on this. I'm asking them to possibly start recording them reading children's books, audio or video if possible. And then once we get those kind of a bank of books, we will have that available hopefully during the summer or in the fall for elementary students or newcomers that will just have, some stories available. Again, Spanish is a little bit easier to find books, but Marshallese is a little bit more difficult. But I think sometimes just hearing it, especially if a newcomer comes in, just being able to have a book and being able to hear it read in their native language should give them some type of comfort and support. But with the leadership, we're going to possibly even go a little further of have the leadership kids create a little bit more activities and book activities. It's just, like I said, that's just kind of a start. But with those leadership kids, but at least I want to start getting a bank of some audio books that kids can at least listen to at their leisure, at their convenience. So that pretty much, I think, wraps up kind of what we're doing here at Enid. Like I said, just like disclaimer, we're building the plane as we fly it, but each day is a different challenge. We have our Marshallese and our Hispanic population and our tutors helping with IEPs, helping with phone calls, reaching out to parents with meals. So they are our blessing in disguise of being able to help reach some of our EL kiddos during this time. So Dan, I hope that was okay. I don't know if I should talk more, but I can if you want me to.
No, that was great. Thank you. And just again, if any of the attendees in the room have questions specifically for one of the presenters, feel free to go put them in the chat box. And when we're completely finished with everybody, we'll go back and we'll kind of do like a round robin for Q&A. All right, Leslie, I appreciate it. Go ahead and move forward to Miss Mary Casto from Union Public Schools, who again, very similar to Enid, has a presence of a language in, or has a pretty varied language, is just like Jinkx will mention as well, and kind of some of their efforts that they've used to address some of their parent contact needs and their instructional delivery. So Mary, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you.
Sure, thank you, Dan. Dan asked me to talk about how we're reaching out to the community and how we're connecting our kids to technology. You know, a lot of what we're doing right now, I'm sure we're all talk about building the plane while you're flying it. Sometimes it feels like you're building the plane while you're crashing, because you're realizing the things that we really are going to have to do differently if we ever have to do this again. So there's that big if that's hanging out there. One thing that we have implemented that has been so very successful is an app called Talking Points. And if you were on a Title III, a federal programs call with me, you heard me talk about it. It is just absolutely a game changer. So for those of you who know, just bear with me. Talking Points is an app that is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So it's a nonprofit. They have 100 plus languages. They don't have Marshallese. They don't have Zomi, but I know that they're on it because another thing is when I call them, they respond to me, which is, you know, kind of a miracle in and of itself. It is like Remind, so you can send out a text message to your families, but what's different is they can text you back. So you text in English, it goes out to them in the target language, they text back in their L1, and it comes back to you in English. So it has really been a game changer in connecting what we're asking our parents to do, which is very, very much outside of what they're used to this distance learning and connecting their kids to schools. So because of the use of this app, we have 98% of our newcomers are connected with the learning platform. And we in Union, we're right under a third of our students are L's. We have a huge newcomer population, especially in secondary. So this is critical for us that we're connecting them with the learning. We've also learned some things about our parents. You know, we send out a lot of things in L1 just with the assumption that they can access the L1, and we've learned that that's not true. So the gap in understanding, even in things that we think we're sending home in the first language, is I'm becoming aware of those through this app, because most of these parents do text. The spelling has been interesting. I had a teacher who called me. She said, Mary, I got a message back from a parent that said fat, 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 fat. And I was like, wait, what? And I asked her to show it to me in Spanish, and she had spelled gracias with an S in the middle. And so I translated it to fat. She was trying to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But, you know, we just have to realize that sometimes spelling and then the texting language, you know, like porque, which means either because or why, if you put a K in there as shorthand, it doesn't translate. And then you get the word pork just randomly in your translation that you get back from parents. So, you know, we're learning a lot, but the communication is there, and we can parse through all of those little foibles, all those little funny things that we're getting back. We have 62 languages in Union. So even though we're predominantly Spanish, this is a way that we've been able to reach out to almost every single parent and give them some understanding. I've also learned, because I also had the translation department and I'm a Spanish translator. I've also learned that a lot of things that we translate to use for computers, for people who only have phones, they don't make any sense at all. I've had quite a few parents ask me, Miss, I don't understand haga clic. I don't understand make a click on something, because we don't click on phones. We swipe and we do other things. So even things like that are helping me to understand how careful we're going to have to be to roll out something more profound with new learning, and also how step by step and simple we're going to have to keep it if we're going to expect our parents to interface with something and bring learning to their kids. So it's just been, even as 30 something years of translating, I have learned so much over just these past few weeks. We've been using Zoom meetings for IEPs, like a lot of you, and we've been able to include live translators, our district translators, on most of those Zoom meetings to help talk to parents. We've also had at secondary, we had parent forums before we rolled out the district learning platform, where we invited our other language speaking parents to come into a classroom with native speakers and talk about what the expectation would be. Even though we sent out our documents in Spanish and in Arabic to the community, we brought them in so they could ask questions, really just because we're not sure if our technical jargon was understandable to them. And that was really successful. And we got a lot of parent buy-in because we reached out to them prior to the distance learning platform. I'm sure most of us have realized in working with our own faculty that there's a technology gulf of understanding within our academic community. There are some teachers who take to this easily. They've been using Canvas and Nearpod and everything else for a long time. And then there are others who this has been a struggle for teachers. We're not using any paper in Union. We could not figure out a way to safely and get families into the vestibules of our schools to get documents. We could not figure out a timely way to do it at our food where we're passing out our food. So we've done everything on a learning platform. We have a 1-to-1 9 through 12, but our elementaries are not 1-to-1. We managed to get a device and a MiFi hotspot out to every one of our families. But I picture in my mind my family with 5 kids, them all huddled around that laptop like a campfire, trying to figure out who gets on when. So that's another big challenge to think about going forward. How does this look if we don't get to see each other? I think that the translation and communication piece is going to be the key, because imagine not speaking English and going into a mainstream classroom and trying to navigate that at all. I can't even imagine the heavy lift that's going to be and the creativity we're going to have with our communication with our parents. So we have this technology gulf with our faculty, and it's even greater with our parents. So I've learned words in Spanish I've learned to describe things I never thought I would have to figure out, trying to help parents get into some of these things to help their kids. I've apologized a million times for not knowing the right word, but we've managed to do it. But it's been a one-on-one process. So it's a parent calling and the translators that are working with me one by one, helping them get on. So I think the gift that's come from that is I think we have a lot of parents. We've developed a trust with these parents, and they're going to call me again when they don't understand something. It didn't feel intimidating to have to do this. I think how brave they are to even try to call me, and then, to walk them through it. I think that we've really created a bond, and the parents are going to call back. The last communication piece that I wanted to talk about was what we're doing at our elementary schools. So at our elementary sites, we're completely a sheltered English immersion model. So our kids are in mainstream classrooms and our teachers are coached by EL coaches. So our EL coaches are pushing into the planning piece with our teachers and looking at the lesson plans and thinking about who is our lowest language level student in this room and what would they need to access this content. It is far from perfect. Like I said, that to me is the part that feels like building the plane while it's crashing. We have a lot to learn, but I do think that we're on our way because I believe our parents believe they can reach out to us with their challenges and their concerns. And that's all I've got, except for, I'm checking in with my teachers. Are we okay? I hope we're okay. I've had lots of teachers who I have meetings with them and they've got 3 toddlers climbing them. So, we all have to be okay. Dan, that's all I got.
All right, thanks, Mary. Great points, and I think there's probably going to be a couple questions. I know we had a couple questions that came up during yours, so we'll circle back to those after our next 2 presenters. All right, next I would like to introduce Ms. Stephanie Coca from Stillwater Public Schools to talk about some of the initiatives that they have going on in the district.
Hi, everyone. It's good that I'm backing up Mary because I think my segment goes very well with what she's talking about within the communication framework. Before we were closed for the coronavirus, we started a program called the Latino Parent Family Program. It was a Saturday afternoon. We ate with our Spanish-speaking families. We had classes for them. We had Spanish language classes for their children, English classes for them, and then just depending on what their needs were, a class about what they wanted to learn about our school district. And from that, it was very easy when the schools closed to just kind of naturally progress this class into an online class. And our medium that we used was Facebook, and I'm going to kind of show you our Facebook page if I can. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll just talk to you about it. For some reason, it's not letting me do it. But we have a Facebook page that we started with our district. The district actually started it, and we put English announcements out on the regular Facebook page for our EL families, but for the Spanish Facebook page, everything is translated, obviously. The first week that we had our online classes at the district, we had a presentation through Zoom that we advertised on Facebook. We presented our screens to them and kind of talked to them about what's going to happen and what it's going to look like and what our expectations are for the schooling. And at this Zoom, we had about 48 people that attended and over 100 that came in and out. We had a question and answer afterwards. It was very noisy, but very exciting for us at the same time. Then we followed up the second week with a pre-recorded presentation that I wanted to show you. We had over 100 views, and it's just, you could still watch it if you go to, it's called Abriendo Puertas, and it's on the Stillwater page, Facebook page. It shows kind of what we presented to them and told them a little bit of changes that had occurred from the first week to the second week and what to look out for. Last week, we had just an open Zoom where they could just come in and ask questions of us. And it was great because we didn't have a lot of questions because we had got the communication out. So a lot of the families were just clarifying, okay, I'm getting this in the mail because I don't have a computer. What am I supposed to do with this? I think this is what I'm doing. Am I right? And so we would just confirm, yeah, you're doing a great job, or add this on, or from there, our district decided that every grade level has the same content. So all of pre-K at every school site has the same content. every first grade, every second grade. So what we did was we took that content, there were about 5 choices, and we chose 2 of the choices that we modified the language, and we added pictures, we added explanations, and we put that in English, but then we also translated into Spanish. And it's, if you look on our Stillwater page, it's called EL. There's a button that's EL, and it'll have all of our distant learning. It has a little letter from me, and then it has all of our curriculum in English and in Spanish to grade 8, because 9 through 12, we work one-on-one with our kids. It's a little bit different. So from there, we're able to post that onto our Facebook page. So we taught our families how to get onto the Facebook page, click the link, and then they'll be able to see what they could do with their children. They can read it in Spanish, have their kids read it in English, and then do the little activities. And it's a lot like what Enid said. We do a lot of outside activities, things that they could do with an older sibling, perhaps. And so that's kind of where, that's been a game changer for us. And all of these things we're learning as we're going. We didn't realize there were so many people we were out of touch with. We thought we were doing really well in the communication scene, but we found through this Facebook page and through these Zooms that we weren't getting everyone. And all of a sudden they were coming out of the woodwork. How come we haven't received this all year? Well, we thought we were, but it was going to the wrong address or something like that. And so my advice, if you can have a Facebook page, that seems to be the method that a lot of families are using. So take advantage of it. That's really all I have in terms of the practices we're using that are different from what everybody else is doing, possibly.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. I did have the, if you want to go ahead and I can share my screen. I found the distance learning. I'll show everyone where this is just so they can see it. And if you want to go ahead and fill in anything as I do this.
Okay.
Okay, can you see, are we looking at Stillwater's
Yes.
page? Okay. I
Click
think this,
the back here.
yeah, I think this is on a scroll. Yeah, wait, where is it?
Oh, and that's the other thing. We've been able to have a lot more kids fed because we found out through our conversations on Facebook, families that were not able to access the meals. So we actually were able to get a lot more kids food that we didn't think we thought we were getting everyone. So there's the weekly assignments. They can either go on the distance learning website or they can go to the Facebook page. And if you click on, Dan, go ahead and click on the pre-K through 5th. We're a week behind as well because it takes a little bit longer to do this. So our district is probably on getting ready to be week 4, I guess. I guess we're not behind. So this is what we've done in English. We've given them 2 activities. And if you use Google Translate app on your phone, you can hover over that and it will translate it into Spanish or another language. So we tried to make it very simple so that parents could hover and read. If they did not have Spanish, the Spanish version, if there are Chinese parents or Vietnamese parents, they could still access the content because it's very simple writing. And we tried to use more steps, short phrases. So that's kind of what it looks like. Yeah. And then if you wanted to go back, you could show the 6th through 8th, kind of how our 6th through 8th grade is doing a trip around the world in 24 days. And so we have 3 versions. This is the EL version. Again, it's real simple, so they could hover over it with Google Translate. We tried to use, in fact, with my daughters in 7th grade, I had her use this version, even though she's a native English speaker, because it explained it to the point where she could use the plot diagram and have some sentence starters and things like that. So it's been helpful to our ELs, but also to our at-risk students. Yeah, so that's what it looks like for us.
Oh,
And then I don't know how to get to the Facebook page. We don't have the link on here. You might just have to, if you wanted to Google Abriendo Puertas.
sure. Well, I'll tell you what, while Jennifer's presenting, I'll see if I can go ahead and locate it in Facebook. And then if I can, we can share it maybe after that and during our Q&A.
Yep, that sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks, Stephanie. And on that note, I'd like to go ahead and transfer over our presentation to Ms. Jennifer Hoag from Jinkx Public Schools to talk about what they have going on in the district.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Just to continue on with the theme everyone's been talking about, building the plane while you're flying it, that's what it feels like. Some days feel like we've made some really good advances, and then other days it's like, you know, we're not making the connections that we really want to. It just happens that way. But what I wanted to do first was I was going to, I'll go ahead and go through our screen or our website and share with that. But what we had found most of all that's I think has been really helpful for us is our open lines of communication that we have with our parents, because we had that built before all of this happened, or we had attempted to, you know, to try to do that to the best of our ability, because we've got language liaisons that we have hired in our district that speak Spanish and Zomi Burmese, and our families, as they come in, we make sure they know who these people are so they can call and be able to contact them. And so they've always had a way to communicate through the school by reaching out and connecting with them. So I think that really helped us to begin with, because they knew they had somebody to connect with first before we rolled out all of this other stuff with the teachers. But our language liaisons, they help translate our documents, and then they interpret phone calls for teachers. During this closure period, they are now doing interpretations for IEP meetings, just going in on the Zoom calls for that as well. So they are our outreach for us for our second languages. Again, we have a refugee mentor that we've been able to hire with our refugee grant funds we received. And he has been going through his caseload of students that meet that criteria and just calling, reaching out to the parents, making sure, you know, if they have Wi-Fi or not. And I'll go through what our platform looks like here in a bit. But if they have Wi-Fi, if they don't, are they able to come to the meal pickup that we have, just to find out what they need to get them taken care of. We're also doing the same with our district homeless liaison. She's doing the same with our homeless students and our foster care families with the foster care kids, just making sure everyone's connected, they know about the food, they know about all of the basic things that our district's offering for them. And we've also have an Arabic interpreter who's doing the same for our Arabic population. Our group that's here, we have a larger Arabic population, but very few of them that don't speak any English at all. But I wanted to make sure that they were included to be sure they're aware of what's happening. We also send out school messenger announcements. We have throughout this entire process, before the shutdown, right at the beginning of the shutdown, and as we were getting things rolled out, we had all of those messages translated into Spanish, Zomi, and Burmese, and we had those all sent out. And our parents are used to getting those robocalls. They know, you know, when they see the school calling, most of the time, we hope they don't hang up, but we hope they answer and listen. But that seems to work because we use our liaisons to record those messages. And so they're very familiar with them because that's who they talk with when they call, so they recognize the voice. But anyway, we've also been field testing talking points that Mary referred to, and of our EL teachers and the Title I teachers that have been using it, they said, like Mary said, it's like a game changer. Parents are really responding to it. You know, like she said, some of the spellings and things are kind of off, but as a way to connect to people, it's been fantastic. And so I wanted to field test it with this small group in this session, and then we're going to look about rolling that out to our district possibly next year. But another thing that we have set up is we've asked for the EL teachers at all of our sites to have a spreadsheet set up to where they can list all of the students that either they aren't able to get into contact with, or if their classroom teachers they support with their students or whatever, they haven't been able to contact. And so that we're using that list then for our liaisons to access, to reach out to those families, find out what they need. We're doing our very best to get everybody involved. So that list is another way to help keep anybody from falling through the cracks, for sure, because we don't want that. The liaisons follow up with them. Another thing that I have found really helpful is here in Tulsa, there's the Impact Tulsa group, and they've been having some community area meetings over just different topics. And the one session I've been attending is on family engagement or family resources. And it's been really helpful to get together to find out all of the different organizations in town that have food or clothing or just different ways to support families, that I can glean all of that and put it together and send it out through our liaisons to our families, so they'll know, if they're laid off of work and they don't have any food in their house, they've got somewhere that we can tell them where to go, because again, it's like we take care of the whole child, with the food and social work and all of that kind of stuff, because they do have lots of needs, and you're not really interested in learning if you're hungry. So I got to make sure they're taken care of with that. We do have a daily meal distribution, and that's Monday through Friday from 9 to noon. We call it Trojan Takeout. And so they come through the line to pick up their food for their children, and we've got a really nice, safe process for that. Along with that, if the liaisons have contacted families and we're aware that there are students that don't have Wi-Fi access to our menu boards or a device to access it, then we've got printed copies of all of these that I'm getting ready to show you, and they can come by and drive through, tell them what grade level, what language they need, and then they'll give that to them, and so they can drive by and pick that up at the same time. So we've kind of got like 2 drive-throughs set up on Mondays. But anyway, we're trying to include everyone with our work. The menu boards that we've got set up, let me go ahead and I'll start sharing our website to show you what those look like. Our menu boards that we have, we tried to set them up where they have activities that are for kids with internet and then kids without. So they'll be able to access, just depending on what their needs are or what access availability they have at home. So we have our distance learning resources here, and they were set up by grade level. However, kind of like what Stephanie talked about, we decided like across the district, all pre-K students are going to follow the same curriculum, same as first, second, all the way through. So as the parents, or let me back up, classroom teachers are the ones that are pushing out these menu boards to the students. However, we also have it on the website as well, just in case somebody needs a different way to access it if they don't get the email. But we have it set up in pre-K through 4th grade and intermediate, and then our secondary. We have some resources here, but the majority of their work, grades 7 through 12, we are one-to-one at that level, and so those students are accessing their lessons and with their teachers through Canvas. We're also using Google Hangouts or Google Meets for our meetings, and the teachers set up times and appointments and then share it out with the kids, and then for the kids to join for those sessions. Okay, here I'll pull up one of our elementary boards. I'll pull up a 1st grade. And again, this is for all 1st graders in the district. So we have it in English here, and they should spend 70 minutes a day on it, and then just go through and cover the different areas: reading, math, social studies, science, writing. Again, we kept all of our activities to where they were just reinforcement. They were in maintenance. We're not trying to teach anything new. And anyway, we've got stuff in here for 4 days a week. We've added creativity, movement. You can see there's links in here for different activities or videos. We've got some suggestions on how to practice sight words. at home. But anyway, so this is for this week with our first grade. Then if you see at the top, we went ahead and we linked just based on language to the top of the learning board. So like, for example, here's our first grade week 3 in Burmese. And so they can either click on it here and pull it up and be able to read it. You know, we try to keep the links in there to make it all work, but we have that available for them. Or if they're unable to access the website, then they can come over to the, let's see, where'd that go? They can come over to the lunch and breakfast food distribution and pick one up there. So that's basically how that all works. Our intermediate is the same. We've got 5th and 6th grade together. We have the same menu boards with the same translation links on the top. Secondary, again, is through Canvas. It's a one-to-one initiative. And then we created support for all learners. Here for our English learners, the lessons that were set up pre-K through 6, they're inclusive of all of our students. They have different lessons or activities at different levels. So the parents and the kids can kind of go through and pick out what works for them. And then for our English learners, this is for our pre-K through 6, and we wanted this aimed more towards our lower level kids. And this is what the ELD teacher would be sharing with the student at the pre-K through 6 level. And we wanted to set it up different. So we set it up and be using the SWIRL acronym for speaking, writing, reading, and listening. And we have an activity for each one of the 4 domains that you don't need internet, and then we have one over here for internet. Then to include some family resources, then we just put that on here as well, and it takes them to a Google folder. And I went through and I tried to find as many COVID example type of newsletters and things, giving them information about what to do for keeping themselves healthy. So we've got it in Arabic and Chinese, all of our different languages. I included the United Way resources, and then I have it by our specific language groups as well, so they could access that. Okay, and so that was it with the family resources there. And that was basically what we've got set up. Just lots of communication, trying to go on with our classroom teachers with the kids, meeting with them, our liaisons. Our instructional assistants have been fantastic. They've been able to come in and provide support for our students, either one-on-one or small group, or some of our instructional assistants and paras have been working with other aspects of the school. But we've all been doing our best just to reach out and make sure everybody's been connected with and communicated with, and they all have something that they can work on. So that was about it, Dan.
All right, good deal. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I do have the Stillwater Familias Latinas page pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and share that. And Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and just walk us through the page real quick.
If you just scroll down, there'll be some posts. We have, like everyone, our kids without technology needed supplies and things. So we had some churches help us out with that. There's one of our, that's the website that has our curriculum on it, where they can just click the link. And if you scroll down one more, right there, that's the pre-recorded presentation that we did that talks about the second week of school, any changes that have been made. So you guys can always watch that if you want, if you get on there. And yeah, and then drive-through meals, we added locations, so we put that on there. And so that's basically it. We have over 100 people that are following us, so we're excited about it.
About what percentage of your EL population do you think, in terms of parent and guardian, are getting information through this page right now, do you think?
Well, we have about probably 250 Spanish speaking families, and we have 100 plus followers. So to me, that's really encouraging. I know it's not everyone, but there's quite a lot, and they share, they spread information. If one of them hears, they spread it to the others. So I feel that it's getting quite a few people, but I can't tell you for sure.
Okay. All right. Good deal. So right now, I'd like to go ahead and switch over to, we'll start addressing some of the questions that I've got in the chat box throughout the last 45 minutes. But real quick, some people had missed or came in a little bit late and missed the first thing I'd said about the email from federal programs. Thomas Kirk has joined us since then, and I'll just pass it off to him for a couple minutes so he can just do a quick review of what this email, and like I said, only 50 districts, roughly 50 districts across the state are going to get this. So it won't be everyone. So if you don't get it, don't be concerned. But I'm just going to give it up to him real quick so he can kind of explain what's going on.
Okay, very quick. I sent an email today to actually 46 districts, and I've already heard back from a handful. There was a change in the reporting requirements on the Title III report. That's taken from the language instruction report on single sign-on. And we have, on that report, we have it broken down where you report the number of kids in each type of language program that you have. USDE now wants that not only broken down by type of program, but also by grade level. So for the districts that I need more precise information on, I sent a spreadsheet to you with the numbers you reported in the FY19 report on single sign-on, and there's a table where you can break that down by grade level. And I apologize for sending that out now because I know everybody's got a ton of stuff on the plate. But we have our last day to send in corrected information is May 4th, I believe. So if you could get that back to me by May the 1st, that'll give us a couple of days to enter it and make sure all the numbers tally and get that into USDE. And again, I'm sorry about bringing that on you now in particular and with such a short time frame, but we really need that. So I don't want to get into any trouble with our Title III folks. And that's it in a nutshell.
All right, and if you have any questions about that, feel free to go ahead and forward those directly to Tom. All right, so we had a little shout out for talking points, but we did have a question too. And this one's for Mary specifically. Do your teachers use talking points for ELLs and then Class Dojo or Remind for other parents? My district is small, so a teacher will maybe only have one student who's an EL.
So we do use all of those things, which has been one of the things I've stumbled over in all of this, is that we're using we have too many choices. And so it's really difficult to communicate. Talking points is something we used on our EL team. We've been using it for about 2 years, and it just exploded during this distance learning. So we have enrolled all of our sheltered teachers in it, all of our counselors, all of our admin. It's spreading like wildfire. So from here on, I anticipate that it's going to be our app of choice when it comes to communication. It's too good.
Yeah, and just to follow that up and clarify if I say this incorrectly, right now, the app is 100% supported by the Gates Foundation, and it's free for basically individual teachers to create an account for their class. But
Correct.
So teachers have to do kind of individually, but I guess there is an option if you deal directly with the platform to do it on a district. I know some districts are looking at going maybe a district-wide implementation to make it more automatic.
But we're actually enrolling our teachers. We're doing it for them, just to take that off their plate, because I agree, they're so swamped with all of the things they're being asked to interface with. So we're doing it from my pretend office here, and I'm enrolling the teachers when they request it. it's easy. It's very easy.
Let's see. Let's go through. So I had a question for Jinkx. Are the Jinkx language translators paid? Are they paid full-time positions? And how do you currently have them funded?
Okay, our right now we have 1.5 Zomi Burmese liaisons. It's one full-time person, one part-time person. And the full-time person is paid 100% with Title III grant funds. The 0.5 person is paid with district funds because we needed more help, and the district was able to pull that together for us. And our Spanish liaison, she is paid 100%, or excuse me, 70% with the district and a percentage with our Title III grant is how we pay for them. And they are being paid, they're 40 hours a week. And so that's what their job is to translate documents and or take care of phone calls and questions and things. For during this time of the COVID time here, where we have to get those menu boards translated super fast, I've got, there's been several college kids that have graduated from Jinkx that are Zomi Burmese, and they're going to college now, or they've already graduated and they're working here in the community, and we pay them $20 an hour from our general fund to translate documents for us for this COVID. But that money in our general fund is also, I attribute it to the money that's brought in from our home language surveys, from our bilingual count, because that pays for all of our staff and it covers all of the translation expenses as well. So we use partial, we've got people that we hired in or that work for us right now, and then we send out to like what I call our contracted interpreters, our high school or college kids or whatever. And then we have been using an interpreter agency just to interpret for our IEPs, because it was just too much. Our liaison, you know, we have one Spanish liaison and approximately 500 kids in the district that need that service, and 200 of them need it for IEPs. So it was just too overwhelming. And so we do use agencies for our Spanish IEPs. And we would for our Zomi and Burmese, but there's nobody that speaks that language. So our liaisons do that. And our ELD mentor that we hired with our refugee grant funds, he is also fluent in Zomi and Burmese, so he can translate or interpret IEPs for the kids on his caseload that are refugees. So it's kind of a divide and conquer, kind of like what Mary said. We've got like a translation interpreter department, and it started out with just a few people, and now I think we've got like, probably close to 80 people on our list that we just hire on an as-needed basis.
Okay, good deal. All right, so we had a question, a very specific question, that do we legally have to provide lessons in all 62 languages in our district, or can we focus on the top 3? No, it's not the expectation that a district be able to provide written translation for every piece of activity or documentation that a parent or student would need to would be provided a parent or student. The expectation is the district provide appropriate accommodation to allow the parent or student to access that information. So while translation is one way to do that, it's not the only way. Providing a verbal translation, providing teachers the professional development necessary to kind of figure out how to scaffold that information or make that that information accessible to the student through accommodation. That's where the emphasis is, not on saying that it has to be specifically a one-to-one translation for every language in a specific district. And if there's any additional questions on that, feel free to put it in the chat box.
I just wanted to follow up on that, Dan, just to say that the only reason why we get Burmese in there is because our Zomi interpreter also speaks Burmese. And so they're like, oh, well, I can just do both of them, because of the two of the Zomi and the Burmese, our Burmese numbers aren't very high. Our Zomi numbers are huge, but and so that's how we just kind of got a bargain deal with that one. And so we just translate our largest ones as required by OCR.
Yeah, so you got the unicorn right there to really help out. Okay, Had a question about who runs the Stillwater Spanish page. Is it the same person who oversees the main page? And that one's for Stephanie.
I am the administrator, and then I have a PA who is a student of mine and now a college student. That was an EL student. She and I work on it together. And then many of our teachers speak Spanish. So we all just it's a group effort that I'm the one that posts and puts the final touches on it.
Okay. I had a message that's just how much do you pay for the program, and this one's from Erica. I believe, Erica, you're referring to talking points. If not, feel free to clarify in another message in the chat box. But like I said, right now I'm sorry, was that yes on talking points, Erica?
Yes, on talking points. I was just curious. I want to bring it up to my administrator to see if it's something that we could get next year.
It's free. How about
I
that?
know it's free now, but I mean, I know it's not always free.
Yeah, it is. It's always free and it's always ad free. For if your teachers want to use it and they want to roster their own kids up to 200 students, it's always free.
Right.
It's a nonprofit.
I have seen that, but like if we wanted to get it district wide, they do charge a fee district wide.
Yeah, to roster your
if you got it district wide.
We haven't bought it district wide. We haven't even gotten a quote yet. So hopefully that's in our near future. Jennifer, have you checked on the district price?
We haven't at this time. We were just waiting for, we wanted to see how well it worked in the field with our teachers and things. We were kind of taking our time with that. So now that we know it's something we're going to look into, we're going to talk about it and see if we'll just have it as, keep it for the teachers because it's free, because it doesn't look like our budget's going to be going very well next year. And so I don't want to bring up anything else to buy, but yeah, we'll keep it as free as long as we can with the teachers.
Hey guys, this is Christy from Moore, and we did have a meeting with Talking Points about district-wide cost. And so they will work with your student information systems, or if you're a Clever school, they can also pull data through there and roster kids for you. The more kids you serve, the cheaper it is. The most expensive is $5 a kid. And then it just goes down from there. We even asked them if we could put together consortiums in the state and work together so that even smaller districts who don't have a large population could still get the cheaper cost. And they told us yes. So we're in the process right now of doing an MOU with them to finish out this year with district-wide usage, because it'll carry us all the way through summer school. And we could use the Talking Points platform for summer school, but definitely looking at it for the fall. So that's your cost breakdown for right now, but we're definitely, even Moore's looking at who could we partner with to make sure that even smaller schools can have this service, but we can all pay the cheaper price. So
just out of curiosity, Christy, can you give the broad strokes of what the tiers are, what you get for that $5, or what you get for less? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's not tiers for what you get. It's the more kids you have, the cheaper the cost goes down. But what is really great about it is if you do go district wide, because just like we're all talking about, our biggest hurdle in all of this has been communication. And if you go district wide with this, and just like Mary said, they already do this with giving their administrators and teachers. But if you did a district wide one and your schools actually had access to this, every time they send a message home and whatever platform they're using, whether it be Dojo or whatever, if you just copy and pasted that into Talking Points, it will immediately be received by all the parents based on the native language they've set up for themselves. And just like Mary said, they don't always even read in their native language, like they're not even literate in their native language. Well, Talking Points also does text to speech. So it will speak to them in their native language and read the school announcements to them.
And the attachments we're using this almost exclusively to push out our newcomer platform, distance learning platform, because the teacher can explain and you can attach videos, you can attach documents, it's just so easy. It's so easy. I keep trying to find something wrong and I just can't. It's fantastic.
I ask all of my staff, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and not a single negative came back. And kids are even videoing themselves or taking pictures of themselves and then sending it back to their teacher. So we're getting to see kids read, and we're getting to see kids go outside and do these activities all through Talking Points. And it's completely private on the teacher side. So the teacher's number is never shared or anything like that. It's all through a private number.
The only other challenge is, you know, when we're rostering our counselors and our admin, you can only roster up to 200 students. So we're having to pick and choose. When we do buy it, I'll be able to roster everybody that they deal with.
Right. And
I just really can't say enough.
If you do the whole school, just like Mary said, it also, when you put in that, if you're going through Clever, so if you have a Clever platform at your school, and you put in their L1 that's on their home language survey, it will automatically set it up for them in that L1. So they don't have to do anything special. It just comes in that language.
Good deal. I had a comment in here, and it doesn't, just saying it doesn't include Zomi, and it doesn't, but what I've heard, well, what Jennifer had spoken about in a previous conversation is that she's actually tried to put them in touch with some of her native Zomi speakers in the district. And from what I've heard from the 3 districts that I know are using this, is that the platform, the people that are managing this platform seem to be incredibly responsive and taking feedback and trying to build in the features to this program that people are asking for. So while it doesn't include Zomi right now, you know, that doesn't preclude that it, you know, we'll never have it. It might eventually be there.
I think what I found that's so different about working with this company is that it's a nonprofit. So these people are very mission driven. This whole platform was created to communicate with ESL families. So they just have a different take on it. They're reaching out to try to figure out how to make it better. They even made some changes during this, the COVID-19 shutdown that or the distance learning that we've been under, at suggestions from districts. So it's a different kind of a feel to working with this group.
Good deal. All right, another question for the 4 presenters, or if anyone else feels like they have you know, something to add on this one. Does anyone have a resource or idea for getting books or reading materials to families who don't have easy access to internet and ebooks?
One thing that we've done for the ones that cannot come up to our school for the meals and to pick up menu boards, once we find out who they are, we've been putting things in the mail to them and mailing it to their homes. I mean, it may not be the best, but that's what we've been doing.
That's exactly what we do, is put it in the mail and send it that way every week. They get it on the same day, so they know to expect it.
We're actually delivering to the door. So we are bringing technology or meals to the door.
So in Guyman, I had a teacher, she's not an ESL teacher, but a teacher buy a bus, an old yellow school bus, and painted it like the Partridge Family, and delivers, she has a library on wheels. Because she's not able to have contact with the students, she has created the crates and left them all over town. There's little libraries, so put a note, take a book, keep a book, return a book, and she travels around 3 days a week and changes out books for just a lending library.
Good deal. Well, that actually takes us to the end of the questions that we had in the chat box. Does anyone, if nobody else has anything that they'd like to ask, I think we can go ahead and wrap things up for today. I want to appreciate everyone taking some time to join us today, and a special appreciation to our presenters that, you know, we're able to, you know, everyone's crazy busy right now trying to make sure that, you know, we have systems in place to make sure that our kiddos can access instruction and access learning. And, you know, it's really great that they're able to free up time to pass on those practices they felt really benefited their students to the rest of the for the rest of the state. And Julie has probably the best final comment. Thank you. This makes me feel better about my plane crash. So there you go. I think that couldn't be said any better than that. But again, I want to tell everyone thank you for joining. And this has been recorded and will be posted on the Elpawita page of the SDE website as soon as we can get everything kind of squared away and consolidated. So again, thank you very much. And if you have any questions or concerns about anything, feel free to send me an email, give me a call. Know where I am. Hope everyone has a great day.